Welcome, fans, to another special episode of Rangers Ed. This is your host, Cousin Ed, here with my co-host, Little Ed, Coach Ed, and our producer, Mikey. Little Ed, what's going on? I see that jersey in the background.
Here we go, courtesy of Oscar's Pro Stitch. Had to whip out my Lundqvist jersey for tonight's episode in honor of the king himself.
Yeah, we know Oscar stitched that up good. We'll get into that in a minute. Coach has got his banner behind him there. I don't know if that's for Hank or you, the king.
That's for Hank.
It's for Hank. Love it. Love it. We got Mikey Produces over there. Nothing Hank, just like me. All my Hank stuff is on this shelf over here in the back. You can't see it, but wow, look at
Mikey's got a wrinkled V-neck T-shirt like on that commercial.
Not wrinkled.
Oh man, we got a lot to cover in this episode. Obviously, Henrik Lundqvist inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame. He'll be inducted in on November 13th. He was selected for the Hockey Hall of Fame. Obviously, the lead news: the Rangers made some coaching hires, and then we'll get into their offseason. The coach's favorite part of this podcast. We're going to talk contracts. We're going to talk the difference between a Group 3 free agent, a Group 6 free agent, and a Group 2 free agent. Coach is going to love this.
Well, let me go get 3 Advil.
But before we do any of that, we brought on a special guest from a great show, Mind Your Pucking Business. We've been on his podcast, and he's been on ours. Jeff Krentzman with Mind Your Pucking Business. Bring Jeff in here. Let's start off the episode. What's up, Jeff?
How are you guys? Good to be with you guys as always, and your stuff is awesome, so I'm just happy to be here.
No, we'd love to have you, man. So I figured we'd bring you on and talk a little Henrik Lundqvist, right? I mean, as a fellow Ranger fan and hockey fan, I mean, it's big news for Rangers fans today, just seeing that. I think we all expected it would happen, a first ballot Hall of Famer, obviously an illustrious career, but just wanted to bring you on and talk about Hanky, what he meant to you as a fan, and what how it's affected you today.
Yeah, I mean, Hank really was the transition or the beginning part out of those really bad years of the late 90s, early 2000s. I remember, I'm pretty sure I'm right about this. I mean, you guys will probably know. I'm pretty sure he played his first game on a Saturday in October against the Devils, where Kevin Weeks was like a late scratch. And he came in. I believe they lost the game, but he played well. And then obviously the rest of that season under Tom Rennie, he carried them to the playoffs when they swept Atlanta Thrashers, if I'm not mistaken. So, really he was just infamous with that era of Ranger hockey from the mid-2000s to, 2017, 2018. He was the face of the franchise. His stats in Game 7 easily could win an argument that he's the best Game 7 goalie ever. And there were years, where in playoff series, man, he would stand on his head like no other. I mean, he really did. So just an awesome honor for him. And, I don't think it's a surprise, but it's still pretty awesome to hear that today.
Yeah, Little Ed. I mean, first ballot, obviously. So for Lundqvist, for probably Little Ed and Mikey as well. For me, when he retired, I took note that, I watched his entire career, like as an adult, what I mean? Like maybe when he came up, I was 18, 19, 20, something like that. So yeah, adult, right? But there's a lot of careers. I saw Messier and Leach and Richter from when I was a kid. But Lundqvist, I examined him, his play as an adult, his entire career. So when he retired, it really made me feel old. It was kind of like, oh, wow. Like, God, I've been watching this game a long time, right? This guy's whole career is as an adult. Like, so Little Ed, I mean, did he have a similar impact on you, like when that news came down?
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, today I was listening to the radio, NHL Network, and they cut to like the live announcement. And like I was still a little nervous, even though everyone was saying it's pretty much guaranteed that he's getting in or whatever, first ballot. I was still a little nervous. My heart was going a little bit. So when they actually announced his name, it was very meaningful. And I don't think I really realized how much he meant to me as a fan, or I guess to the fan base in general, until he retired. And even when you watch like the highlight videos and you hear the Lundqvist or the Henrik chants like in the Garden, like I still get the chills hearing that. Or when we were at the banner night, those chants coming back, you just get the chills, and it's very nostalgic, and you can't help it. The little tear comes to your eye, just thinking about all the memories.
Yeah, there's so many memories with Henrik. I mean, Coach, you've seen a lot more Rangers hockey than we have. So, I mean, the Rangers are known for having great goaltending, right? I mean, you've seen Eddie Jockman, you've seen Richter, you've seen Beezer, you've seen a lot of good to great Rangers goaltenders. Have you seen one better than Hank, or if not better, like equal impact to the Rangers?
I mean, you can't take away Richter. I mean, just the Stanley Cup alone, that season he had in '94. That's what sticks out in my mind. He was just incredible athlete. I'd say he was kind of on a par with Hank. His career got cut a little short, but as far as being clutch, I mean, he doesn't have the Game 7 record, but he was clutch. A lot of games he was really clutch, kept him in games.
Yeah. No, I mean the Stanley Cup sets him apart, right? I mean, Jeff, like, you hear a lot. I hear a lot of comparisons with Hank to like Dan Marino. Right? There's a lot of people that give me that maybe they don't know hockey that well, but they know who Lundqvist is because of his face probably and his hair. But they, you say how great he was, but he never won. And I hear Dan Marino. I mean, how much do you think that impacts his legacy? I mean, because obviously the 30-win seasons, the Vezina Trophy, the gold medal. I mean, guy's got it all, but he doesn't have that Stanley Cup. You think that impacts his legacy negatively moving forward? I mean, he's a Hall of Famer, right? So
yeah, I mean, it certainly affects his legacy, right? I mean, all athletes are playing for is to win it all. So, I mean, it affects his legacy. However, you look back to some of the years they didn't win with him when he was in his prime. I mean, he did everything he could. It wasn't on him. But the lack of a cup, yeah, I mean, it certainly impacts his legacy. It's hard to say it doesn't. I mean, Dan Marino would be the first athlete that comes to my mind of a similar, right? Played great, all-time great, but just didn't win the hardware. So, I mean, it impacts his legacy, but I think as Ranger fans, we know he did all he could do. He literally wore his heart on his sleeve every time he went out there. So that's all you can ask for.
I mean, Mikey, you're the football guy. Is it similar to Marino? I think it's pretty similar.
It's pretty much identical, unfortunately. But us being fans, we can't hold it against him. They made it. They had a chance. They just came up short. But, what Hank did for this organization and, what he's still doing for us is, speaks a lot louder than him having a Stanley Cup. So good for him. Well deserved.
Yeah, I mean, we all went to his banner night. Obviously, pretty emotional night. Hopefully, we can get up to Toronto for the induction. I don't know if we can make that happen, but maybe. I don't know. It's just crazy.
Will be
it's
in
just,
the mail, that's for sure.
Yeah, seriously. It's just crazy that we're already here. It feels like yesterday that he was. We were in the 3-goalie tandem. With Georgiev and Shesterkin and Lundqvist and trying to figure that out. And then he signed with Washington, and then he had the heart issue. It just all feels like yesterday. I mean, I think all
So
that
he's
was
out
happening.
It's 5 years he's out?
No.
I guess. I mean, less, right?
I thought it was
less.
5 years eligibility.
His last season was 2020. That's when he was bought out 2020. So that's 3 years ago.
Baseball is 5 years. Hockey is less, I believe. But Coach Ed, I think you're right that baseball and some of these other sports are 5 years. Football maybe as well.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I mean that. I don't know what hockey's rules are with the Hall of Fame. It's got to be 3 years because this is the first year he's eligible, and he played in 2020. So, speaking of Hank too, I don't know, Jeff, did you see the documentary Hank debuted at Tribeca? I can't wait to watch that. I'm sure that's.
I've seen trailers of it. I've seen there's a couple places online where they like leaked certain clips. I haven't seen the full aspect of it. Today's news will only make me want to go see it more though now. So yeah, I will go see it for sure.
Well, yeah, he certainly timed it correctly, right? So
He did.
it's going to get released on Hulu or Amazon or whatever,
It's whoever buys it.
coinciding, right? Coinciding with him being inducted in the Hall of Fame. So he's definitely a smart businessman as well. So
I just
listen,
looked it up. It is 3 years minimum
3 years
from retirement or last game played, I guess.
All right, so we got to wait 3 years for Kraftsov to be eligible.
And you know, Coach Ed will be on the first plane to Toronto for him to show his support.
Well, you know that plane ride. You know that plane ride doesn't have to be booked.
So listen, I mean, congrats to Hank. I mean, I was a little surprised to see the rest of the class. You know, I don't want to get bogged down on this, but Tom Barrasso and Mike Vernon, I was a little surprised by that. I mean, good players, but Hall of Famers. It's a little.
Well, they were talking about it on They were talking about it with Weeksy on NHL Network. There's only 40 goalies in the Hall of Fame, I think he said.
Yeah, apparently the goalie union or the Players Association was really pushing for more goalies.
You know, if Barrasso didn't win the cups in the early '90s with Lemieux and Yager and all that jazz there, and Paul Coffey, he's probably not a Hall of Famer without the cups, right? I mean, that's the difference. Henrik Lundqvist is a first ballot Hall of Famer. He doesn't even have any cups. So
yeah, definitely.
There's definitely a difference there.
That's a good point.
For sure. Also,
Mike
Pierre
Vernon
Turgeon as well.
Yeah.
Vernon's got 2 cups with 2 teams. So that's pretty impressive. But anyway, congrats to Henrik Lundqvist. Obviously, our whole podcast, huge fans and had a big impact on us. And, just as hockey fans generally and Rangers fans. And, obviously he's not listening. But if he is, we are obviously super proud to have had Hank as a Ranger and to have enjoyed his career. And it's not the end of his career with the Rangers, right? He's still around the team, like Mike said. And, in the booth with Valley, giving us those chuckles and whatnot. So awesome day to be a Ranger fan, just to have that happen.
Maybe they'll give him a ring as part of the media one day.
Right. Look at
twice.
The builder.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very cool when you're a fan and he's a career guy. I mean, Messier's in the Hall, obviously, but when it's a career Ranger and he gets in, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, like Leach.
Yeah.
Yep, for sure. All right, so let's talk a little bit. Shifting from Hank, let's talk a little bit about the Rangers off season, where they stand right now and where they're going, and just what can fans expect really. So just some numbers here for Coach, because I know he needs to hear them. Right now, they have just shy of $72 million in salaries on the books, on an $83.5 million salary cap. They have just under $12 million in cap space. And this doesn't even include like Will Cooley, Brennan Othman, or Zach Jones. And it assumes that Ben Harper is on the team. So, we got some RFAs and UFAs. We went over the who should stay, who should go in the prior episode. But you're looking at Lafreniere and Miller still need new contracts. Kane and Tarasenko are unrestricted free agents. Mikkola, Tyler Mott, Yaro Halak. So they got some holes to fill. You need like 4 wingers, 2 defensemen, and a goalie with $12 million. Not a lot of space here to maneuver, and that is going to be even less when Miller and Lafreniere sign their deals. So I'm gonna turn to Jeff first while we have him. I mean, what are you expecting from Miller and Lafreniere contract-wise? We've seen some numbers floated around in the media. We talked about them on prior episodes, but I'm just curious, like, what do you think is going to happen here with each of them?
I mean, I'm more confident, I think, in Lafreniere over Miller, although I still think they both get done. I think that this is not going to be a splash 2019 off, free agency where they got Panarin or anything like that. They obviously don't have the cap room for that. And the other thing is, I don't know if you guys have looked at, I'm sure you guys have, the top UFAs out there on July 1st. There's not really anyone that's like overly exciting to me. I mean, I'm not going to go crazy for Tyler Bertuzzi. I'm not going to go crazy for Patrice Bergeron, even though he's probably going to retire anyway. There's just not a lot there that's getting me that excited. But I do think they're going to get Miller and Lafreniere done. But, if you're asking me to compare the two, I would feel a little bit more confident, I think, in Lafreniere.
No, I mean, really, what I'm asking is, like, how much of the cap do you think they're going to take?
Oh,
Because I think that's gonna determine how they fill the rest of the roster. I mean, you got, like I said, 4 forwards, 2 defensemen, and a goalie, and that's not even considering spares if in case of injuries. So, it's 12 million. Really, 6 or 7 players. There's just not a lot of room, right? So,
no.
I mean.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing, and look, I mean, Drury, any GM in that position is going to do this. I mean, you also have to look down the road to deals you're going to have to sign next year and the year after. I mean, that's the other thing that gets factored into that number is, what you're signing someone to now, knowing what you're going to have to deal with next year. I mean, Chris Drury really, not to shift gears here, is really, this could be the pinnacle part of his tenure here, this offseason and next offseason because of these deals coming up, plus the coaching change. So, if Chris Drury doesn't hit the right buttons here, I mean, I'm not sure he's the GM in 3 years. I really don't.
I agree with that. I mean, we were talking about that in the last episode, when in one of the prior episodes with Gallant getting on the hot seat. We were saying, like, why isn't Drury on the hot seat? I mean, I know he just got the job, but he's the one who signed all these no movement clauses and, locked the team into a 7-8 player core. And there's just not a lot of maneuverability. So, I think it's a good point you make. Drury's got to nail this. He hired his coach, and now he's got to make sure that he puts his the right buttons here. I mean, Little Ed, Lafreniere, and Miller. I know Jeff's saying he's more confident in Lafreniere. I mean, I'm predicting that it's going to cost at least $6.5 million to sign those two, and that's on the low end, right? And that's on a short-term contracts, right? That's not even. If they want to sign Miller long-term or Laffy long-term, they're going to have no space. I mean, how do they get through this? It looks like it's only one more year before the cap goes up. You think they just try and kick the can down the road maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think you got to sign Laffy to something similar to Kako and hope for the best as far as the cap goes, and hopefully we have a bad problem in our hands in a couple of years. And like Jeff said, if Drury doesn't nail this, then it's going to be the next GM's problem. And then realistically, the whole Rangers, I mean, we're going to have a lot more to talk about on the podcast if that happens. That's for sure.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, Coach, when we did our little who should stay or who should go, Jeff, I don't know if you saw it. Coach Coach signed everybody to projected contracts, including Kane and Tarasenko and Mikkola. Everybody got a contract, and I said, "Well, how are you going to clear space?" And Coach, what was your answer to that?
Panarin.
He wants to trade Panarin. So, with that in mind, I mean, Jeff, do you think that's even going to be considered? Do you think it's possible? Because if Artemi Panarin, whether we should trade him or will trade him, doesn't matter really. Those are different questions, right? Whether they should trade him or can trade him. So I'm asking you, if they could trade him, is that something that they should do, assuming he says yes and waives his no move clause?
I think it's hard because you then have to replace 92 regular season points, right? And that's not easy to do with what you're going to get in return. I mean, Panarin obviously didn't do well in the playoffs. We all know that. But, what you've got to now replace 92 points to get you to the point where you're back in the playoffs and back where you were. I also think it's even if he waived the no non-movement clause, I think you also, it's a tough contract for a team to pull in as well. So I wouldn't trade him. If it's me, again, look, I'm as frustrated as anyone with what we've seen in the postseason. But I just think to replace 92 points, you're asking a lot. That's a lot.
Are you really asking a lot, Jeff? If you have Tarasenko, are you asking a lot if you have Tarasenko and you have Kane?
So I would not be trading Artemi Panarin.
Coach, go easy on him. His internet's buffering.
I'm sorry. I thought he was done. Are you really gambling a lot if you have Tarasenko and Kane on the team to not replace that 92 points?
No, I got you.
And hopefully Lafreniere and Kako picking up another 8.
You know, for some reason, I don't. Am I? I am going to take that gamble. Yeah, I can hear you guys fine. I can see you fine too.
It's okay. I think you're good now.
Okay. So, Coach Ed, I would take that gamble on those young guys. Look, eventually it's got to pay off, right? I mean, I'm not going to go out and bet my mortgage on it, but I think at some point here, those guys, Kako and whatnot, they've got to take the leap. Have to.
Yep. No, if Kako and I've said this, if Kako and Lafreniere do not take the leap, the Rangers are just not going to win a Stanley Cup. I mean, it's going to be until the next rebuild. I mean, that's the reality.
Right.
Like, those guys need to take that next step, and that's it.
Maybe letting Panarin go and giving them more time gives them that opportunity to blossom.
No, I mean, look, there's a good argument that I think it's a good argument. I don't know if it's the right answer, but it's a good argument that trading Panarin does a number of things for the Rangers positively, in that it opens up 11.6 million in cap space. That's number one. I mean, that's possibly 2 to 3 impact players that could be signed or acquired with that. It gives more opportunity to the younger players to fill scoring roles, but he's such a dynamic talent that it is a gamble in and of itself, like Jeff is saying. So it is a tough call. I think, and maybe I'm wrong, but I think if Drury could trade Panarin, he would. I just think that, like Jeff said, who's going to take that contract? And it's unlikely he is willing to, waive that no move clause in the first place. But
maybe they would have to eat.
If he could, he would.
Maybe they'd have to eat a little bit of it. Maybe JD wants him back in Columbus.
Well, eating it would be really dumb. I mean, you're going to spend
$2 to $3
million.
It, not all of it.
I heard you. Well, you can only eat half of it. That's the rules.
Okay.
So if they eat $2 to $3 million in that contract, you're going to pay Panarin $2 to $3 million for 3 years to score 90 points on another team. I don't think so. That doesn't make sense to me, Coach.
As long as you have the facts on the table.
I mean, Jeff, how would you feel about the Rangers paying $3 million of their cap for Panarin and him scoring 90 points in Chicago next year or something?
Yeah, I don't love that approach. The other thing is Panarin, when he came here in 2019, it was reported in a lot of places that he wanted to go to a big market team. So that would also axe a ton of teams that he would be willing to waive his no movement clause too. So you're already now knocking out a good percentage of teams that even consider. So I don't think he's going anywhere.
And those other teams don't have cap space, so they're just not going to take him in. But
and he's got a haircut now to match Mikey, which I like. I don't know if you guys saw that. They're looking good. They're like twins.
Yeah, I love that you said that.
I DM'd him and he listened.
I love that you said that because I made the exact joke last episode.
Good minds think alike.
Seriously. But anyway, before we let you go, Jeff, is there one unrestricted free agent or one player available via trade that maybe you've identified that you think this guy would be a good fit for the Rangers and could fit within the salary cap? And I know you said the UFA list isn't really enticing, but as you go down the list, there are some good players there. You got guys like Garnett Hathaway and Pierre Engvall, Jesper Fast, Corey Perry, Halla. Some of these guys maybe in the bottom 6. I don't know. I'm not trying to make you sign Tyler Bertuzzi or anything. But
well, I think your thinking is in line with mine. Hathaway or Jesper Fast, they kind of fill that bottom 6 role, which I think we talked about on NYPB yesterday with you guys. Would be one thing that I would like to see them do, maybe solidify the bottom 6 more, even though they did have a good playoff series, just consistency throughout the year. So Hathaway is obviously a Laviolette guy. They played under him in Washington, so he's familiar. Jesper Fast is obviously familiar with New York and the Garden. So, I think either of those guys would be where I would target, but I would not be expecting them in any way, shape, or form to be bringing in a player that you're racing to get their jersey from. a splash name or anything like that. That's not happening this year.
Yeah.
I'm
No,
okay
I
with
don't.
that.
I don't think so either. But we'll see, I guess. I mean, dude, thanks for joining us. We love your show. I check it out on YouTube, and I see your posts, your clips on Instagram. It's really well done, and you always have good insight into the Rangers. Check them out at Mind Your Pucking Business. Pucking Business, I said, guys. Pucking Business. Check them out on YouTube, Instagram. They do great work over there, and they're really, good friends of our show, and we love having you on. I appreciate your time, man.
Thanks a lot, Jeff. Really
And
appreciate
likewise,
it.
Thank you, Jeff.
When you guys come
Thanks
on,
for
it's
always
awesome.
having
See you
us
guys.
on as well.
Have a good night.
Anytime, there'll be more of it
All
to
right,
come
Jeff.
for sure. You too, guys.
Hey, buddy.
Always love having Jeff on. Mind Your Pucking Business. Great show. Seriously, I'm not just saying that because he's on the show. They do a great job, and check out Little Ed and Coach Ed on there. Mikey, did you go on yesterday or no? Just Little Ed and Coach.
No, just the Eds. No,
Yeah,
M,
just the two Eds.
C's.
So check the two Eds out on that. You look for those clips online. I'm sure they did a great job. Can't wait to see what Coach Ed needed to review before it got posted. I'm sure it was some interesting commentary. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Check out Jeff's show live every Tuesday morning at 10 a.m. on YouTube.
Yeah, check it out for sure. So, look, big news around the league. Obviously, this is the off season. We got a lot coming up. The NHL draft is coming up. We're going to see a lot of activity pick up now towards the draft. A lot of picks are going to be moved. Every year, it's the same storylines. It's fun to follow. You saw a big buyout in Vancouver. Oliver Ekman-Larsson was bought out, a huge buyout hit for the Canucks. Just looking at the Rangers, I want to talk about Barclay Goodrow because I think this is really the one player that Drury could possibly move to free up some cap space, to get some flexibility. And, I know everybody here likes Barclay Goodrow as a player, so I want you to not think about Barclay Goodrow as a teammate, as the player, but more so Barclay Goodrow at $3.6 million for the next 4 years. If he could be moved to clear cap space, do you move him? I mean, Coach, thoughts?
Well, I don't fully understand. So if we move Barclay Goodrow, who's replacing him? What I always see that tends to happen is you move a player, like we don't sign, just say for instance, whether you're a fan of him or not, we don't sign Jesper Fast. Then we sign someone else for about the same amount of money. Maybe a little less or whatever. A lot of that stuff doesn't make sense to me. So who are we replacing him with? That's my question. If you're going to tell me you're moving Barclay Goodrow for that cap space.
Well, I think that's a good point. But I say with Barclay Goodrow's hit 3.6, you could get two players who are similar to him, not just one, right? So you could take that 3.6 and you can invest it in like Garnett Hathaway and Nola Chari. And that would be $3.6 million, those two players. You get a fourth line center and a third, fourth line winger for the price of Barclay Goodrow. Or you could trade Barclay Goodrow and try to negotiate with Tarasenko. Take that $3.6 million and try and shovel it over to Tarasenko. So,
well, then I'm good with that.
Well, no, for sure. It's not like Tarasenko would only cost $3.6 million, but it helps
but it gives you a
have a
leeway.
chance to re-sign him, right? So I think that's really the only. I went through this hundreds of times on Cap Friendly, literally hundreds of times. I have tried to maneuver this roster around.
When do you have the time to do it hundreds of times?
Well, ever since March, I've been doing
once
this.
A day for the last 100 days.
I enjoy doing this. I mean, I literally go on my phone, I go in Cap Friendly, and I look around, and I estimate what I think people are going to get, and I try to, see what the Rangers could possibly do. Obviously, I have no idea what they're going to do, but I'm just trying to figure it out. If they don't trade him, they can't really do anything. I mean, that's what it comes down to, right? So if they don't trade Goodrow, you're looking at Miller getting signed. Hopefully he doesn't get offer sheeted, but assuming he's at $4 million, Laffy at 2.3, 2.5. I mean, there is not a lot of room. You're literally looking at Zach Jones is in. There's no option. Jones and Harper are filling that third spot on D. And then you got, possibly a Cooley, Offman, Brodzinski, these cheaper players are going to have to come in and fill spots. They're not going to be able to maneuver much more than that. It's a reality. So I'm okay with that. I think it's fine, but don't expect much more than depth signings.
Is Miller worthy of $4 million? I mean, yeah, he's very good, but has he got to that point where he commands that in this next contract?
It's a good question. I mean, so the comparison for Miller coming off his season, 9 goals, 43 points, and look, agents, they use that to negotiate, is Noah Dobson with the Islanders, right? So Noah Dobson had a 51-point season in the last year of his entry-level deal, and then he signed a 3-year contract for $4 million a year.
Wow.
So Miller at 43 points, 9 goals instead of 13, right? Maybe he's a little under that. Maybe he's at 3.8. There's also inflation. It's been, a year and change since Dobson signed that. That's the going rate, That's the going rate.
Out of those 100 cat-friendly things that you did you try moving Heedle's $4.4 million contract at all before you started moving Goodrow's?
No, a couple of times I did play around with moving Heedle. The problem I kept running into with moving Heedle is if you're going to move Heedle, it needs to be in the right trade, right? So it's not like Goodrow would be a salary dump. Like you trade Goodrow, you're literally just taking back like a 4th or a 5th round pick and just clearing the cap space. But if you trade Heedle, you can't really do that. You're trading a 23-year-old center. You scored 45 points, 20 goals, former first-round pick. I mean, you got to get back a good prospect, good high draft picks, right? So the problem with
you want to get the pucks with labels on both sides.
The problem with moving Heedle is where's the right fit for that, right? So I looked at, I read, Arizona might move Logan Cooley because he doesn't want to sign there because who the hell wants to play there? So I was like, oh, that might be an option because, Arizona. If you're the GM of Arizona, let's ask Coach this question. If you're the GM of Arizona, like, what are you looking for in a player besides just like a good player? What about their contract matters to you?
What about their contract matters to me? You're throwing me these questions that I don't have the answer to.
I love doing this to Coach, right?
Well, you don't want a long-term contract, and you don't want it over a massive amount of money, like over $4 or $5 million.
Right. So you want a cheaper contract. Yeah, cheaper contract, but you do want some term on that contract because nobody wants to play there, right? So Heedle has 4 years on his contract. If the Rangers traded Heedle to Arizona, he can't just leave to next year because who the hell wants to play for the Coyotes? So that I feel like that would have some value to a team like Arizona. And maybe you get a guy like Logan Cooley, and I'd be okay trading him. I know Coach wants to dump him. Mike, you want to dump Heedle, or are you just trolling me? Like, there's no way you want to just dump
I'm
Heedle.
just saying, like, there are other people on the team that are making a little bit more money than Goodrow is, so there are other options besides just dumping Goodrow was my point.
If they trade Heedle in order to keep Goodrow, I'm like border. I'm like so close to being done with this team as it is. I'm already done with the Mets. I can't deal with being a Met fan anymore. I'm like about to just end that. But like, that would be so asinine. It would just be so crazy to me. Goodrow, as good as he is, and as important as he's been to this team, is a very replaceable player. He's extremely replaceable, and he has very little growth ahead of him. He is what he is. That's it. I mean, that's the reality. I'm not saying they should trade him. I'm just saying compared to Heedle, a 23-year-old, 6'2" center coming off a 45-point season in a third-line role with no power play time, it would be crazy to dump Heedle to keep Goodrow. Crazy. Just from an asset standpoint, forget like
who says we're dumping? We're not dumping him.
Why not both? That's $7 million.
You could trade both. It's closer to $8 million. Actually, it would be over $8 million. You could. I mean, listen, if they want to make a splash, they're going to have to do that for sure. They'd have to move Gaudreau and Hedel or something. They can't move the other guys. Kreider, Panarin, Zibanejad, Trocheck, Trouba, and Fox are not getting moved. So yeah, it would have to be Hedel and Gaudreau.
Trade Panarin to Toronto for Austin Matthews.
Okay.
You want to talk about choking in the playoffs? You're going to trade Panarin, who's been pretty good in the playoffs in his career until he came to the Rangers, for a guy who's won one playoff series in his career.
Yeah, but he's due.
Yeah, I don't know about that one. I mean, Austin Matthews is crazy good. But anyway, Little Ed, good draw. I mean, Mikey's trolling me. Coach doesn't want to trade him. What are your thoughts?
I've been thinking about it the last couple of days with all the rumors swirling that, I mean, yeah, if it's possible to get or to free up space for a player like Tarasenko, I think you got to do it. I think that's a no-brainer. But Coach Ed also brings up a good point. If they're going to free him, if they're going to get rid of him to just like bring in a couple like mediocre players, I think he brings a lot more of the intangibles that matter a lot more than just what is on the ice. So, yes, is he replaceable on the ice? 100%. But I don't necessarily think he's replaceable maybe in the locker room or just around the team, his pedigree, 2 cups, the whole 9. So all the other things we talk about, I mean, I think he won 3 separate awards for us this year, like the awards that we picked. Like one of us picked it for team contributor or our teammate. One of us picked for key contributor. Another one picked for I forget the other one, whatever. But you know what I'm trying to say is like
he's a Swiss Army knife.
Exactly. He brings a lot to the table. He's a great teammate. So, yes, he is replaceable, but at the same time, he's not. So it would be a tough decision to make, and it would have to be the right one. Like I said, it's got to be for like a player like Tarasenko or I don't hate what you said about Cooley, someone like that. And then you got to think
well, Gaudreau wouldn't go for him. That would be a Hedel or
Lafreniere. Getting them back, whatever. Because once you get rid of Gaudreau, you got to reformat the whole lineup. Because we've been talking about solidifying the 4th line. And we spoke about it on Mind Your Pucking Business that a lot of things have been swirling around about the Rangers needing to solidify that 4th line identity. And there's been a lot of mixing up the last couple of years in that line, the bottom half. And getting rid of Gaudreau would be shaking that up a lot again. So that's another risk. As opposed to heading in the right direction by extending VC, having Gaudreau for a long-term contract, and then hopefully signing Connor Mott.
Well, who are you? How are you fixing the 4th line, right? So there's 2 ways they can really do that. One is, going to free agency and dumpster dive, looking for guys like VC who maybe are undervalued and strike gold on a short-term deal at a low cap hit, right? Or you can use your minor leagues. Call up guys from Hartford and give them opportunities.
Yeah, I'd give Cooley an opportunity, no doubt. I would have Offman start out in Hartford, and then if he makes a lot of noise, if he gives them every reason not to keep him there and to give him a chance, and fine, but start him out in Hartford. But I think it's Will Cooley, right? That's how you pronounce it?
Cooley, yes. I was talking about Logan Cooley on Arizona.
Right. It's 2 different players, just fans. So no. So Will Cooley, the Rangers have a contract with in Hartford. Logan Cooley is from Arizona, who they do not have
related.
A contract with.
And Will Cooley throws a hit on Logan Cooley.
Could you imagine if they had both of them on the
team? Cooley to Cooley.
I would definitely start him on the 3rd or 4th line, no doubt. So I mean, they do have some pieces in place where they can get rid of Gaudreau on the ice. But my point is, off the ice, is it worth it? How much does he actually bring to the table? I think that's something that Drury would have to ask the leadership about as well. I mean, because Gaudreau is an assistant captain as well. I mean, that's hard.
Well, I mean, the Rangers are
one of the 6 or whatever.
They're not shy with trading guys with letters on their jerseys. They've done it. Did it with Callahan. They did it with McDonough. those are captains and they move them. So I don't think that would stop Drury. He's kind of cold-blooded in how he operates. If he thinks it's the right move for the team, I think he'll do it. But I think I do agree with you. I think he does bring things to the team that are valuable. I don't necessarily want to get rid of him. And I'm okay with, filling out the roster with cheaper veterans and rookies until they figure out what they could do. I don't see the need to go out and get any of these guys really. As Jeff said when he was on, it's kind of the list is kind of shitty, man. I mean, there's really not a lot outside of the Rangers free agents who really intrigue me. Outside of like Kane and Tarasenko, you're looking at like Alex Killorn, pass. Like I like Tyler Bertuzzi, but he's going to get overpaid,
Killorn's a top guy. Isn't Killorn one of the top guys on Tampa?
I wouldn't say he's a top guy. He's more of a role player.
A top guy. I didn't say the top guy.
Well, I mean, if you go down Tampa, who are their top guys, you're going to say Steven Stamkos, you're going to say Braden Point, Nikita Kucherov, Victor Hedman, Andrei Vasilevsky. I've already said 5 players already. So then if Killorn is 6th, he's not really a top guy on Tampa. There's already 5 there ahead of him.
He's highly touted as their shutdown centerman, though. So that's very important, or has been very important for them in their runs.
No, I mean, he's mostly played wing. I don't know. I mean, he's a good player, but he doesn't I'm not like, oh, they got a clear space to sign Alex Killorn. Like, I'm not jumping out to get him.
I agree, but I have a point before I forget it. The big issue with the last 3 coaches is how we're going to get the young guys more ice time. So how is getting rid of Barclay Goodrow going to get them more ice time?
Well, I think
you have to get rid of one of these top 6 guys. That's what's got to happen. And Drury's not afraid. He got rid of Bushnevich pretty quick.
Well, it's true, but I think the answer.
You want to get them playoff time. You want to get them all this extra time. You're not going to get it if you keep it Panarin. You got Trocheck. You got Zibby. You got Kreider. Where are they getting this extra time from?
Oh, I think the answer is easy. You're not going to like it. I think the answer is you put Kreider with Trocheck and VC as a third line. And then you play Lafreniere, Kakko, and Hedl up with Panarin and Zibanejad, and then you fill out the lines like that. This way you have a checking line, Kreider, Trocheck, VC. It's a solid checking line. They could score. They'll forecheck hard.
So you put a guy that scored 50 goals and 30 what? 6 goals? What do you have last year? You're gonna demote him to the third line.
And power play and penalty kill. He's gonna play plenty of hockey.
If they ever did that to Hedl, you'd have a baby.
Well, I think it's about roles on the team, right? It's about what roles you want players to play.
He's a 50-goal scorer.
I wouldn't say Kreider's a 50-goal scorer.
You want to put him back to the third line.
He's acting like he's freaking Alex Ovechkin. He's a 50-goal scorer. The guy didn't score 30 goals. He never scored more than 30 goals in his career until 21-22. He had 52 goals. And then last year he had 36 goals. Before that, he's never had 30.
And what is Trocheck's salary?
A lot. 5.625.
And that's your third line center. Almost $6 million a year.
Well, you got Hedl at 4.4 as your third line center. That's a lot for a third line center too.
That's not 6.
Neither is 5.6.
Oh, close.
It's 5.6. I just think for what roles the players are going to play is really important, right? And if you're asking me, you guys, Zibanejad, Hedl, Trocheck, your 3 centers, Little Ed, which one of those is most likely to be a third line checking center? Of those 3
on
centers?
Paper or realistically?
No, a checking line center. Which one is your checking line center?
Would be Trocheck.
It wouldn't be Hedl, right?
No,
because Hedel's a playmaker. He's an offensive-minded guy, and he's ineffective in a checking role. And he's ineffective in a checking role. Trocheck is effective in a checking role. It makes sense.
Yeah, but I don't think the third line is really. I think that's kind of like fading away.
Yeah.
I have no problem with Hedo being as a third line center because then you get the matchups. If he performs, I think that's what was happening to him all season. Whereas he's not getting the top line matchups, and he was taking advantage of it, and that's why he was pushing 30 goals. I think that's a great spot for him to be in.
I'd
I don't think
rather
the
him play
Rangers
with
really
Panarin
need
so
another
Coach can
checking
have a heart
line.
attack.
That's not a lot. No, it doesn't work.
Hedel, Panarin, and then fill in your right wing. What do you think, Coach? That'll be your
Heedle,
second line.
Panarin. Bring back Bushnevich and throw him on there.
We'll call it the doghouse line. Hedel, Panarin, and Bushnevich.
Oh my God.
I don't know. You're not wrong. They do need to find a. I'm just trying to be creative here. They do need to find a way to get these kids more ice time. And yes, Goodrow moving him is not going to do that, but it will. And they could move his salary out to, like I said, fill it in with two guys, maybe Hathaway and Achari or something like that, and that fills the depth out. But all right, so let's talk before we go to the coaching quickly about some of these guys who might get called up. I mean, do you guys think Zach Jones is penciled in that third lefty to start, maybe splitting time with Harper, or do you think they're going to go try to pick up a guy like Ekman Larson, who just got bought out on a cheap deal, and strengthen that third lefty spot?
I'm a huge fan of Zach Jones. I know he doesn't have the size, but I think he definitely has the talent to play on that third line.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, the guy's got the skills. Coach, I mean, you're not going to like Zach Jones there come playoff time. What is he, like 5'6"?
That's what I'm saying. And to me, I don't understand why they signed him unless they plan on trading him at the deadline. Not at the deadline, at the draft or something. I don't get it. He doesn't fit into the Rangers right now, in my opinion. I'm not taking away his talent. I think he's very talented. I think he's too much like Adam Fox, and we don't need another one in the lineup.
Yeah, little Ed, Zach Jones.
I think he's going to do fine in the regular season. He's not a playoff performer. So I think the plan is to start him out as the 6D with Schneider, accrue some cap space with the low cap hit as the sixth defenseman, and I think he'll be fine in the regular season. But
what do you think about moving Schneider up and Trouba down with Jones? Right, because Trouba had success bringing in Keandre Miller into the NHL. I was thinking about this. A lot of Miller, a raw rookie. Trouba brought him in. Just Jones and Schneider. Schneider's still kind of young. He could, he can hold his own with Jones, I'm sure. But maybe Miller and Schneider can become a really solid pair, and Jones can play with Trouba to kind of help solidify Jones. You also maybe bring Trouba's minutes down 5-on-5 and increase them on the PK or something like that. I don't know. What do you guys think of that?
I don't dislike it. I mean, I just like Trouba and Miller together. Maybe we're just used to that. So, I mean, shaking it up, starting it out in the beginning, see how it goes. I mean, we're also used to how one coaching staff saw the lineup for X amount of years, So now we have an entire new coaching staff. They're going to see the lineup a little differently. They're going to see each player a little differently. So, yeah, but, I mean, going back to the Ruda question, I think the Jones signing is great. Keeps the very low cap hit for 2 years. And, I mean, whether they start him in the regular season like I'm saying, or they trade him like Coach is saying, I think that's a win-win.
Yeah, seriously.
And it's a good trade piece because it's very attractive to other teams. And a very low cap hit for a puck-moving, good skating defenseman.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think Jones starts the year with the Rangers, Harper in that seventh role. Maybe he plays against bigger teams, and if Jones does well, he's trade bait or he stays. It's one or the other, but he's solid trade bait. I think it's a win-win situation with Jones there. What about Brennan Othman and Will Cooley? So these are two of the Rangers' best forward prospects, both of them slated to be in Hartford, both of them on entry-level contracts. Do you think they're competing for one spot, two spots? I mean, realistically, are the Rangers going to enter the year with Brennan Othman, Will Cooley, and Zach Jones all on the team? I think that's probably unlikely. So do you think they're even competing for one spot in the forward corps, or you think they're both going to be in Hartford? Coach, I'll go to you first on this.
Well, I was asked this question the other day, and what is the? I know there's all kinds of rules with how many games they play up and down, and the AHL. Is that going to be an effect on any of their playing time?
What was that, Coach?
The
Well, these
9
guys
game
are,
rule he's asking about.
yeah, that kind of stuff.
No,
Is that
no. That applies to players when they are under the age of 20 and Canadian junior eligible. So Othman will be 20 years old. This will be the first year of his contract. So his contract slid last year. You're thinking of contracts sliding when they're under 20 and they play in juniors. So he's 20. This is the first year of his contract, whether he's in Hartford or the NHL. Doesn't matter. There's no sending him back to juniors anymore. Will Cooley, same thing. He's actually in the second year of his deal because last year counted because he was 20. So not an issue.
I was a big fan of Othman last year in the preseason. I thought he might have made the team last year. I mean, I thought he was ready from watching him those few games. Obviously, in juniors, he's lighting it up. So I don't know. I think he's going to be up in the bigs for some amount of time this year.
You know, I just like about him is that he tries to model his game after Matthew Tkachuk. So if he's just like Matthew Tkachuk light, I'm not expecting him to be Matthew Tkachuk, but if he's just like kind of that annoying and also kind of that skilled, I'm good. I think that's super valuable, man. Like if he can do that and score 25 points, like he doesn't have to be a 100-point scorer. If he can just be that pain and like chip in and not be a black hole offensively, he should be on the team, even if it takes him more time to actually develop into the true player he is, because we're missing that bite. You know, we don't have that bite on the team, and where else are they going to get it? So with Othman, I want him to start in Hartford because I don't want to rush him. So I agree with Little Ed in that way. But if he comes into camp and he looks ready and he's got that bite, I can see him making the team very easily.
Well, if they get rid of Goodrow, he might fill that spot.
Well, Goodrow right now is a center. Right, so he plays all 3 forward positions with the team, but he's our 4th-line center. Othman is a left winger. Of course, our best prospect is a left winger, where we currently have Chris Kreider, Artemi Panarin, and Alexi Lafreniere, of course. But he could play right wing, hopefully. One of these guys has to move to right wing.
I think he's the type of guy. I remember seeing him in an interview. I remember seeing him in interviews last year. Like he said, I want to be on this team. I think if they approached him and said, look, we need you to move to the right wing, I think he would do it. He doesn't have that, like, oh, I'm a left winger. I don't see him with that attitude. I think he would just figure it out.
Maybe, but who do you think they should move to right wing? If you were the coach, Laffy?
He's got the left-handed shot. I mean, me personally, I like playing the right wing as a left-handed shot. That just seems the most natural to me.
I
natural,
prefer the off wing. For sure. I prefer the off wing, and I like being at left D. So I'm with you.
I mean, that's probably why Panarin plays left wing. He probably prefers the off.
Yeah,
he likes the cross-ice passes and opening his body up so the entire team can read his passes, you know?
Well, you just kind of led me to why I asked the question. Is there any truth to this idea? If we move Panarin to right wing, will that reduce his turnovers? Just think about, like, Panarin's game. He enters the zone, he stops at the blue line, and then he throws the puck across ice, or he does it even in the neutral zone sometimes. If he's playing right wing, you know, he's seeing the middle of the ice better, and it's a little more difficult for him to stop and throw a puck across the middle because his stick's going to be in a passing lane. So it might make him like play towards the middle of the ice and go deeper in with the puck. I don't know. I'm overthinking it.
I can't wait to see what these coaches do, to be honest with you. This is going to be interesting.
It's going to be interesting. Speaking of the coaches, we should mention before the episode's over, the Rangers have hired 3 assistant coaches since our last episode, including Michael Pekka, ex-Islander. Most recently, he was with Buffalo. as an assistant coach in a coaching capacity. Dan Muse as well was hired as an assistant coach, and then a few hours ago, I read the Rangers hired Phil Housley, who I think he's a Hall of Famer. Speaking of the Hall of Fame, I think he is as an assistant coach.
USA hockey player also.
Yeah, another USA hockey guy. So Michael Pekka and Phil Housley on the Rangers bench, interesting. And Dan Muse, who coached team to a gold medal at the World Championships under 18s recently. Coached at Yale University, coached with the USHL Chicago Steel, and was an assistant with Peter Laviolette in Nashville. Housley as well coached with Laviolette in Nashville, and Pekka coached with Laviolette in Washington. So all these guys are tied to Laviolette. That's his staff. No roles have been announced yet. Coach, I mean, you don't obviously know a lot about these coaches as a coach, but you saw Phil Housley play and you've seen Michael Pekka play. You know what kind of, hockey players they are, and you assume that may translate to them as coaches, right?
I think Pekka was involved with Buffalo at the time when they were doing they had a bunch of youth guys, no-name type of guys. He's probably very familiar with it. And Housley's a freaking 20-year NHL player who's going to have nothing but good advice for guys, and he's going to demand the effort and the steadiness. It's going to help out the D core, I believe. I think they're good choices from the outside looking in. My big question is, have they hired a trainer yet?
Yeah, they need a trainer, and they need a skills coach. So, Little Ed, Pekka's brought in because he had a lot of success with Buffalo when he was an assistant coach at their AHL affiliate, developing prospects such as Jack Quinn and JJ Peterka, who Sam loves to say his name, JJ Peterka on Buffalo. Both of them had pretty good rookie years last year. I think the idea is Pekka can maybe get these young guys to take the next step. What are your thoughts on Pekka?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know much about him as a coach. I remember him as a player, always just being a pest on the Islanders. But he was never really one of those Islanders that you hated, So it's not like they hired someone like that, whereas like we have a bad taste in our mouth for him, So that was my first thought is like, oh, they hired an Islander, but I kind of think of him more as a Sabre. I kind of remember him in that black and red jersey. So yeah, obviously he's got those ties to Chris Drury, and it seems like the coaching staff is really coming around, and it's good to see. And I did look up Housley. He was inducted into the United States Hall of Fame in 2004 and the Hockey Hall of Fame in 2015.
There you go.
Can't argue with a resume like that all around. And I don't think Michael Pekka is a Hall of Famer, but he's got a decent career behind him as well, and sounds like he's got some good success as a coach. So if, if they hired him to do the youngins, then let him go.
Well, I mean, he's been a captain of two different teams, and I think that matters. Like, usually guys who wear letters like that, they can translate into coaching if they want. There's a reason they have a letter. They're kind of like a coach in the room.
It's all about leadership and being able to handle the room and putting guys in your back and things like that for sure.
Yeah. So the last thing I'll say about the coaching, unless you guys have anything you want to add, Laviolette at his press conference, coach was asking about the press conference last week. He pretty much says he wants to give Kakko and Lafreniere power play time and more ice time. So I was excited about that. But then I went back and I looked at Gerard Gallant's words at his introductory press conference. I went and looked it up, and what he said was, you give them the opportunity, and hopefully they take advantage of the opportunity and the ice time. I don't think young players should sit on the fourth line. You have to give them an opportunity to play. We have a lot of young, talented players on our team, and they'll have an opportunity. And I realized that was almost identical to what Laviolette said. So then I was thinking, Well, I was dissatisfied with how Galan played the young kids, so I'll probably end up the same way with Laviolette. But I'm hopeful. Um, I'm hopeful. I don't think
Maybe the Rangers just have like a press conference form that they just make the coach repeat every time they hire him.
No, they definitely prep them for the questions. I mean, the media probably has to submit the questions beforehand. It's probably a whole fake thing. It's like a
I mean,
reality
look, are
TV
they?
show.
What do you want the guy to say? I'm definitely going to guarantee them 15 to 18 minutes time in a game. No, they're going to have to earn it. Maybe Gallant had that intention and he didn't see it, or his staff didn't see it. So, again, the pressure was on him too, especially after going to the conference finals, to step it up a notch. And you're going to risk that last season when you have a power play that was succeeding. It's a tough line you got to cross.
No, I agree with the latter part of your point.
I
What
mean,
do I
maybe in
expect them to say? I mean, I just wonder. I think it frustrates me because I look forward to this stuff, right? Like I watch the post games whenever I can, and I watch these press conferences, and I'm like, look forward to it. I'm excited to hear what they have to say, and then it's just all canned BS, and I'm like, what the hell am I watching this for? Like everything he said just doesn't matter. I'd rather him just be like, look, I have no idea. I training camp and I'll figure it out then. Like I don't know who's gonna play. Rather than be like, oh yeah, we want to give them ice time. Like, duh. Like it's if you're not gonna do it, don't say it.
It's also the press asking the same questions.
Well, I think that's the pressing issue, no pun intended, is how is the new coach gonna play these young players, right? I mean, that is the issue. A lot of people have identified that to be the issue, but all right, so we'll keep on top of how this goes. With the free agency is looming around the corner, the NHL draft looming around the corner. If anything happens, we'll try to report it as soon as we can and get it to you fans. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't expect too much to occur, barring something unexpected. I mean, let's just wrap this up with Lafreniere. I mean, I keep reading online that teams should offer sheet Lafreniere. Coach, you know how offer sheets work?
No, I don't.
So just so you know, so with an offer sheet, if the player signs the offer sheet, then the team who owns the players, they don't own the player. I mean, the player's rights, that team will receive compensation in the form of draft picks, right? So depending on how high the salary is, the more draft picks and higher draft picks have to be given to the team. So for example, if someone gave Lafreniere, 12 million or something, whatever, right? 12 million a season, which would never happen. They would owe the Rangers like 5 first-round picks, right? Consecutive or something like that. If they give them 4 million, then they owe, a second and a third. If it's 4.5, it's a first and a third or whatever. So there's a whole scaled salary chart on what draft picks are owed. So there's a lot of teams out there that are saying, let's give Lafreniere. A lot of people are saying some teams should give Lafreniere, 5 million or 6 million on a 1 or 2 year deal, and the Rangers won't be able to match it because their salary cap space, and he's worth the compensation that would be given to the Rangers in exchange, right? Realistically, if that happens, what the hell are they going to do? Like if a team like Montreal, say, gave him 5.5 million, I don't know if the Rangers can match that without moving Edel or Gaudreau or something,
He wants to be a Ranger.
Well, that's the thing. Kakko, we were worried about this with Kakko too, and he ended up signing, right? So it's probably not. I think
Who wants to leave New York City?
Well, when you're from Montreal, you want to play in Montreal.
Kid's 21, living in New York City, about to make millions of dollars. I think he's going to want to stay.
Well, when you put it like that, Mike, when you put it like that, right? There's a lot of people that want to leave New York City. You'd be surprised. But
the people that have lived here for 20 years.
Yeah, but, not a professional athlete.
Right, that's the thing. Somebody else made that point, like New York's a dump or whatever. And I was like, well, yeah, if you're like broke and you're like live in like a rundown New York apartment in like a bad area. But if you're, if you're Jacob Trouba living in a penthouse, like the Upper West Side or something, I'm sure it's fine.
pretty darn good.
Yeah, I'm sure it's fine, right? But
if you have a car service taking you to and from the games, it's not a big deal.
Yeah. All right, so I'm not putting Coach on the spot.
Wait, you didn't put Jack Johnson on the free agent list?
No, I just put the top UFAs. Top.
And Mark Stahl.
You and I have different definitions of top. When you say Alex Killorn was a top player on Tampa and Jack Johnson is a top UFA.
I got one thing for you, cuz I wanted to bring up really quick. Hopefully we don't stay on too much longer. But did you see Messi's contract with Miami, with Major League Soccer?
No, what was it?
So obviously he declined like $1.6 billion to sign with the Saudi Arabian team, and Miami couldn't afford to give him $1.6 billion. So what they did was gave him streaming rights to like Apple TV, because Apple TV just bought Major League Soccer. And I think like Major League Soccer gave him like apparel rights for like jersey sales and stuff like that. And then they also gave him rights to become like part owner, for whatever team he wanted to once he retires. Do you think that's going to start, happening in sports across the league, being a norm, or what do you think?
I don't think so. I think that probably, well, first of all, soccer is a unique sport, right? When it comes to contracts, because I look up some of these contracts sometimes, what these guys make in Europe and how they trade players. They like buy them, right? So it's like, Messi's on Manchester United, purchased by whoever. They like pay that team millions of dollars and they get the player. That doesn't happen here, right? Not formally like that. So soccer is unique, but I also think Major League Soccer is different because it's fighting for attention with 4 major sports. So they're probably willing to give Messi whatever the hell he wanted to get him into the league, to hopefully drum up more attention and compete with the NHL and the NBA and baseball and football. I mean, all these leagues are inadvertently competing with each other, right? I mean, the NHL competes directly with the NBA, directly. They don't work together, right? The NHL and NBA aren't sitting there planning around each other's schedule. Like, this is not how it works, other than arenas. Arenas like the Knicks and Rangers, right? They don't really care. They're competing, and the NFL competes with all the teams, leagues. So I think that's all it is. So I think if you see that like Major League Soccer pass the NHL in revenue or something like that, then I think hockey would then be in a position where they need to change something up, like maybe increasing the salary cap more than $1 million so that players can get paid and be on good teams and fans can enjoy Tarasenko for more than 2 months. But hey, we have Gary Bettman as the commissioner, so that won't happen. Anyway, 2 things.
I think David Beckham had a contract like that, and that's why he owns Miami. He played for
David
the LA
Beckham
Galaxy.
is an owner.
Yeah. He signed with the Galaxy, and MLS promised him a team, and then he chose Miami to start the team in Miami. Secondly, didn't Crosby get a contract similar to that? Doesn't he have ownership rights with the Penguins once he retires, or is that just rumored?
Oh, I didn't see that. If that's true, then that's news to me. It might be true. I'm not saying it's not, but
I think Mario Lemieux had that also.
No, Mario bought Pittsburgh when they were failing.
I think part of his contract, his last contract, was like part ownership or something. Not a major part.
I'm looking for my David Beckham autograph. I think it was taken. It was taken out of my room. Speaking of Messi, did you guys see Oscar's Instagram post on that?
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Better.
Mila's sitting on a gold mine over there, Ed.
I know. I told Mila. But yeah, Oscar does good work. So shout out to our partners and sponsors, by the way. I know it was kind of we didn't want to awkwardly just throw you into the middle of the episodes. We're gonna give you some love right now. We got Suitor Sweet Treats. Awesome. I heard Coach Ed, you got a surprise from our friends at Suitor Sweet Treats. Check them out at suitorsweettreats.net.
Not only that, I got a nice little voicemail, happy Father's Day message, which was very sweet and unbelievable. And then I got that surprise care package, which was phenomenal. Took me about 45 minutes to open everything up.
Yeah, I heard it was quite the haul. So
and then he wouldn't share.
I'm not surprised.
Kathy had to yell at him to share.
I shared the cranberry oatmeal cookies.
Kathy's always yelling at him. Be nice. Be nice. It's so funny. And then you got little Ed over here moistening his arm with the tattoo cream.
Always got my Mad Rabbit tattoo cream over here at my desk, just in time for the show. And cousin Ed and I got our tattoo scheduled for November, and I just got an email that Mad Rabbit came out with a new product, a tattoo care patch for immediately after you get your tattoo for the healing process. So definitely be picking up some of those, and if anyone's getting any tattoos for the summer, definitely keep those out of the sun with a patch from Mad Rabbit. Use promo code EDPOD for 20% off.
Yeah, check them out. Check out Bella Italia over in Oceanside if you need any, marble, granite stuff going on. And who we missed? We missed one. Sorrento's, our favorite pizzeria.
Sorrento's, of course.
Yeah,
Sorrento's. Yeah, they are posting a lot of their new pastries and their espresso bar, cappuccinos. Looks like it's bumping over there in the West End, and got to get over there and try some pastries. I mean, their pizza is obviously knocked out of the park every time, but I haven't tried their desserts yet. Got to get over there.
I can't help but think about this. We're going to have to talk about this in an episode coming up in more detail. But every time you talk about them with the coffee maker, and now today we talk about the Hall of Fame, it just reminds me of going to Toronto and having literally like an espresso and a beer like every 5 minutes.
Everywhere we went.
And we didn't sleep for like 3 days. It was just like espresso beer.
Yeah.
We invented the espresso martini, but with beer, essentially.
Yeah.
Let's not forget Lucarelli Law down in Naples, Florida. Spoke to Dominic yesterday, as a matter of fact, and he said to throw out his name on the podcast. He gave the okay yet, so don't get nervous.
I don't care. It's him, not me. It's up to him, Yeah, he's great lawyer. Does a lot of good work down here in Florida, and he's a part of the National Italian American Bar Association, NIABA. Got me involved with that, and every year they do a continuing legal education class, so you get credits if you attend in Italy. And I got to figure out a way to go because I have to do it anyway, right? So I have to get the credits anyway. I might as well go to Italy.
Dominic recently bought his mother's house in Italy, or his aunt's house, somebody's house in Italy.
Wow.
So
well, Dominic, we'd love to do a live stream from Italy, a live show.
Yeah.
We got some friends in Europe that follow our pod.
That's right. But Ed, how much are you really Italian in your ancestry.com? I don't know about that.
Me, like 33%, 34%.
Is it that much?
Yeah.
Wow. All right.
Yes, sir.
All right.
What's yours? Coach?
I have no idea.
Well, I mean, probably double mine because my dad's your brother, so I didn't get it from my mom, that's for sure. But anyway, all right, fellas, let's call it a night. We got a lot going on here in the next few weeks, so be ready to hop on for emergency pods if possible. I'm hoping I'll be able to. We'll see how the summer shakes out, but there's a lot on the plate here for the Rangers. It's going to be interesting.
Yep, absolutely.
Coach Ed has been yawning for the last 15 minutes, so we gotta call it an
We
episode.
gotta wrap this up.
It's time, boys.
Love you guys.
Congrats
Yeah,
again
yeah.
to Henrik. Long live the king, baby. Let's go Rangers.